Hey guys, Jeremy here. Just wanted to do a quick little sort of build log for my home theater PC that I built. I got a couple questions about it online, and I thought, you know, I'm a visual learner, so it might help other people if they could actually see what I did instead of just a bunch of stats on a piece of paper like somebody cares about that stuff. So, we're going to go ahead and talk about the overall build, and then I'll tear it apart and show pictures of it and that sort of thing, because I didn't film this while I was building it. I filmed it afterwards because whatever. I'm not Linus, so have fun with that. Real quick though, as far as peripherals, it's really simple. I went with a Logitech K360 keyboard. It uses one of the Unify little USB dongle things, but it's really nice. I like chiclet style keyboards. My desktop has the same kind of Logitech keyboard on it, but I like this style. I'm not super picky about it, but I needed it in this build to be small. I was really looking at another one that did not have a 10 key on it, that was really short, but Logitech wanted more money for that one. I think they wanted 60 or 75 bucks for that one, and it was Bluetooth instead of 2.4 gigahertz. So I decided on price point I would go ahead and use this one. So far it's been perfectly fine. No complaints about it whatsoever. I can game with it with Titanfall, that sort of thing, and it's fine. I haven't noticed anything crazy. All along the same lines, I also picked up one of Logitech's mice. This one was cheap. M325 on this one. It happened to be like $8 or something, and I hooked it up to the same Unify dongle, and it was fine, no worries about it. One thing I will note is that the Unify USB dongle that for the keyboard and mouse, I did originally have it plugged in at the back here, and I would get it cut out every once in a while. I'd be pushing, you know, W to like walk forward and nothing would happen, and then a couple seconds later it would like do it all at once. That kind of sucked. So what I did is I moved it to one of the side ports, and I have not had that issue since. And I think part of it is because from back here there might be interference from all the board and electronics and stuff, and then finally get out and I might be sitting too far away. But in this position I haven't had any issues whatsoever. I almost have line of sight based on where that's at, so it should be nice and easy. For the case, I decided to go ahead and use the Coolmaster Elite 110. I liked the form factor of it. It was really small. I needed something that wasn't terribly obvious sitting on all the computer stuff, because my wife would have killed me otherwise. But I couldn't get away with a super short form factor, small form factor case, because I wanted to be able to fit discrete graphics. And that's something that was really important to me. I'm like, if I'm going to build a gaming PC, I really wanted to go all out, so that's what I decided to do in this case. Anyway, but it's great. The power button on the front is the power light as well, but I actually have this hooked up so that the hard drive light is here, and the power light is actually the one on the side instead of the hard drive light. I did this so that when I'm sitting back, I see a nice big light whenever the hard drive is clicking, loading a game, that sort of thing. It's bright for sure, but I felt that if I had my hard drive light in the side position, I wouldn't be able to really see a whole lot. Plus, this would never turn off if it was actually the power light. I decided that might be pretty annoying down the road. On the back, nothing crazy about the IOs or anything, just standard issue IOs. So let's go ahead and crack this guy open and see what there is to see. In the top here, I have a 2.5-inch drive, a single 2.5-inch drive. I decided not to go all out and fill the whole thing full of hard drives or anything. It does support 3.5s in the side, but I decided not to populate those just because I wanted some really good airflow for the GPU that I put in here. Since I was going to use discrete graphics and nothing else, I decided it was going to be a big deal enough to just kind of keep the whole system cool and not have to worry about it later. I did leave myself an extra power adapter and extra SATA adapter just to kind of make things easier. But this is the 2.5-inch, 160 gigabyte laptop drive that I yanked out of a dead laptop. It's not fast, it's not big, but it was $0, so that's why I decided to use it. I might upgrade to a 1 terabyte red 2.5-inch drive later on in the future, but that's really if I decide that I genuinely am running out of room. But I think really the GPU is one of the showcases on this board, not this build rig. Build. One thing I will note is that in order to get the GPU out and in, I actually have to open up the front cover because of how little room there is in the front of the case here. You can actually see my PCIe adapter is actually sticking out of this little slot where all the other cables are coming through for the front panel, because there's literally no other spot to put them. And in order to get anything out, I actually have to pull the power adapter out of this spot. And it's a kind of a tight fit. So keep that in mind if you're using this case to build a really good gaming rig. That might be something you run into. Wiggle, wiggle. Wiggle, wiggle. Wiggle now. Okay, so in my case, I use the Power Color R9 270. The reason I picked this card is I wanted an R9 series GPU. It was kind of a big deal. If I'm going to build a gaming rig, let's freaking do this thing. And you only get one slot, so I had to make it everything. No SLI, no crossfire, it wasn't going to work. And the reason I picked this particular one is because of the short PCB. I only have 210 millimeters of room to get a card that goes in there, and I think this one's like 208 or 198 or something. It just barely fits. And a lot of the other boards in the R9 class are like 240 millimeters, so it really wouldn't fit. And as it is, you can already tell that with that front PCIe adapter instead of a top one, it's kind of a challenge to go ahead and get in there and actually get this guy in there. It did go ahead and run with the Corsair CX430M. I didn't want a lot of extra cables or whatever, so I went ahead with modular, and actually I'm barely using any of the 430 watts. So it happened to be the smallest one in the that price range that I wanted. I was interested in getting an RS, an RM, and switching some things around and upgrading my desktop to the RM and then moving that CX600 to this. But with extra cables, I decided it wasn't going to be a good fit. Also, we have a side view of it. This is the Intel G3258 dual-core, dual-thread processor that Linus recommended for gaming. It is awesome for gaming. Between the GPU and this processor on Titanfall, I'm getting perfect VSync 60 frames per second frame rates. Not a big deal. Very high texture packs and high everything else. My television is only 720p, 51 inches, but it's only 720p plasma. But when I do put it at 1080 and the screen, renders it to downsampled size, frame rates are still really, really good, even though I have a 270 instead of a 295 or anything crazy like that. So it's been great. Perfect, playable frame rates. It's fine. And the load times for the maps is fine as well on Titanfall. Not a big deal. I'm usually not late to the game or anything. It's fine. The board that I have in here is an Asus H97i Plus. It is the H series, not the Z series. But Asus released a press release or something that they're going to put a BIOS update that allowed for overclocking on certain processors with the H series H97 board. So I went ahead and snagged that one. It does exactly what it says. I did have a down rev firmware when I first got it, like 0603, and what I updated to was 2203, and it does exactly what it says. I could unlock the processor from the default base clock of 3.2 gigahertz to 4.2 gigahertz, a whole gigahertz of overclocking room. When I tried to push it further, it would lock up within 6-7 seconds. It was really fast when it locked up. Tried overvolting all this other stuff, and it won't do 4.3 in my case. You might experience something different, but I think a whole gigahertz on air on the stock cooler is, I don't know, pretty good for how cheap I am. I might be able to get something more later, but this is perfect for what I'm doing with it. Not a big deal whatsoever. I do have a single 4GB stick of Ballistix RAM. It's 1600 megahertz RAM, but this particular processor, I believe, only does 1333. So whatever, man. It's capable of more, but at 4 gigabytes, it's been plenty of RAM. Again, no frame rate issues on Titanfall on very high and high settings, so no big deal there. My boot drive is a 64 gigabyte M.2 Transcend 2860 form factor. It goes on the bottom side of the board. It's not hard to change, but you do have to tear everything out to actually get to it. In this particular case, if somebody else had one with an open back and a full-size tower, I'm sure you might be able to get to it, depending on how big the opening was. But I don't plan on changing it out, so not a big deal. I'm using the stock fan that the case came with, and although these cables and such is blocking some of the airflow, I'm getting decent temperatures. At idle, the processor runs around 32, 35 C. At room temperature on air on the stock cooler, and then when I have it ramped up middle of games, going full bore, that sort of thing, it's only 55 C. And when I saw those numbers, I decided the stock cooler in this instance was plenty, and I'm not gonna. I had thought about getting a RAD and all this other stuff. How can I fit a 140 in there? I'm gonna smash it in there, and I decided to go ahead and not do that based on the temperatures that I saw. So piece of cake as far as that's concerned. One thing that's interesting about how CPU-Z 1.7 reacts to the G3258 is really, I mean, it recognizes it, but then you don't have the up-to-date clock information and that sort of thing as far as it goes. AI Suite does report it as, you know, fluctuating and moving around and that sort of thing, but CPU-Z actually doesn't, which I think is interesting. Let's open up stress tester, Prime 95, small FFTs, okay, and then we'll see that jump up 4.2 or 4200 megahertz right there. But CPU-Z doesn't change. It just kind of chills out, which I think is interesting. So whatever, man. There's no data, so I think that's pretty interesting. But voltage core 1.18, so that's good. I may have said the wrong number earlier, but we're just now at 43. All right, let's show some gameplay here. Video. Very high 8. This is disabled because I have it enabled in the hardware. ATI Catalyst control panel. All these are on high. We still show 60 FPS up at the top here. I mean, we could go ahead and flip this up. Now thinking. Keep. But it still says 60. I think it's even harder to read now, just because it says that all the time. And all enemy forces. Where did I go?
Pilot, your plane will be ready in 2 minutes.
Riding cowboy. So as you can see, it's at 60 the whole time. I mean, it doesn't come down. And that doesn't mean that, you know, VSync is preventing it from going lower, you know, because it really doesn't. All it does is prevent tearing and that sort of thing. Let's go find a bad guy here. What's up? Now I'm going to rip this off and spray a whole lot. Oh look, come back! Check it out! Inked Marine. Sorry, bro. I gotta take care of this here. And let's call for the Titan! Titan! Anybody? Titan? Anybody? Oh, cool. There you go. And where's the bad guys? Bad guys. Bad guys? Killed Spectre. Cool. What about... I'm gonna go fight somebody big. Like this guy. You need to come back to your thing so I can shoot you, man. I assisted Lord Griffin. What's up? Execution! Dash core online. Oh, you're a good guy. Sorry, bro. Oh, you're dead. It's not as much fun to talk trash to the robots, though. They don't really care. So, I think we've hung out at 60 FPS basically the whole time. And there's, you know, actually I've discovered there's still a little bit of screen tearing. The reason I enabled it in the hardware and not in-game, I mean it's all software, but in-game is because I heard that it resolves some of the tearing issues versus input lag. Like basically the built-in option was that you could either have input lag and really good visuals, or you could have screen tearing and no input lag. And so I had read on a blog that the balance between these two things was to have it enabled in the OS hardware. And so far, I still see tearing, so I don't think that's the... Wee! I'm a little showgirl. But so far, I don't think that's the case. So I might go ahead and go back to the software method I was using before, which is using it, you know, in game. Anyway, thanks for tuning in and taking a look at the build that I made for my home theater system. And works great. Highly recommend it. I didn't spend obviously a ton of money on the components. You know, $0 on the hard drive and $20 on the keyboard and $5 on the mouse and you know, 50 on the power supply. Somebody do the math. And then I did spend 110 on the motherboard. 70 on the processor, and only 120 on the GPU because I bought it used off of Amazon. The case was 50. Memory was 40. 40? 30? Something. Anyway, getting great performance for how much money I actually put into it, and I'm able to play games in front of my TV instead of at my desk. So, works great. Highly recommended. Thanks for tuning in. Subscribe, like, or don't. Whatever. Don't care. Information is more important than, like, I get money. No, I don't care about any of that. Somebody else might. I don't care. See ya. Bye.